5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Admitting 155. Good evening, everybody.
Welcome to the second ever Quarantine Cuisine brought to you by Truffle Shuffle. Your host,
I could if I had my.
and Tyler.
More sleep.
So excited for you guys to be here. Anyone on the Zoom call, go ahead, make sure you're muted, right? We know you guys want to hear our beautiful voices on this. And this time, we're
Okay, I want to hear.
Hold on 1 second.
and
Just go on email.
very, very last of the season on those. It's a lot of fun. Everything in the kit over here. Completely sold out of all of these kits this time. It was insane. So thank you guys so much for that. We had people trying to beat.
What you doing? Back up!
Whoa.
Back up! Taking the bag. Two things. Taking this. Wash your hands.
That's what everyone's saying. Go get that bat. Is that the truffle burglar? Did the truffle burglar just come in here? The kit that we had, that was literally the only last kit that we had to make truffle. Oh my God.
I got it.
Chef Suzette, everybody, round of applause.
They can't really hear you, so the joke's not really landing.
Yes.
They're saying like mute everything.
Yeah, no,
I am so excited to be here today. I can't begin to tell you. I'm First of all of my friends. So excited to be here today. We've got, of course, Chef Jason, Chef Tyler. I'm so impressed. We're going to make them honorary finalists. So previously known, Jason McKinney is now Jason McKinney. And previously known, Tyler Voras is now Tyler Vorace. I do have to go back to last week, though. Sorry, a little unfinished business, gentlemen. Made a wonderful risotto, probably even better than mine. But I have to say,
Where's the speaker on that one?
you cannot beat the risotto. You cannot beat the risotto. I don't understand youth, exuberance. Okay, I got it, but no. It should be coaxed. And maybe Mr. McGee can back me up on this, but risotto grains are full of amylopectin, and they want to be coaxed, just like young ladies. Please, I don't want to go to brute force here, but no, you cannot beat the risotto. Promise me.
Chef, I will never beat risotto again.
Okay, and that's in the power invested in me, your honorary chefs de cuisine in Italian style now. And so with no further ado, we're going to start up some cooking instructions for the rest of you. I have some thank yous to say also as well to the back of the house crew, which is Sarah, and all the folks that are helping us to stream live today. And then there's the Acquerello team, my partner Giancarlo, Isabella. We also have Gianpaolo, who is our wine director, and no less today joining me will be Seth Turiansky, who's our CDC. So those are the folks that are in the house. I'm very excited to be here with you today for lots of reasons.
Can you hear us?
It is extremely difficult for all of us out here right now. It's kind of like a war zone. You know, all I can ask, and I know it's Sunday, no sermon, and I'm going to stay off the soapbox, but whatever you do, however you do it, the best you can to support us is so, so appreciated. Everybody does it a little bit different, and it's not the lay of the land. That's what we do as chefs, right? So please, whatever you can do to help anybody at any time, at this time especially, is really, really appreciated, because I'm an incurable optimist, and I'm coming out at the other side, come hell or high water, and that's my intention, and I'm sure it's yours too.
Yes, chef.
So I'm going to start cooking here pretty soon, I think. I'm talking a few more things. Just in a roundabout way, I'd like to make sure that you wash your hands. I'm going to go wash my hands. But if you are in a team today, if there's two of you, if there's one of you, I want to make sure you wash your hands and get your beverage of choice. And preferably if you could hold on to the pigato that was offered up today and save it so we can pair it with the gnocchi, that'd be great. In the meantime, if you're drinking something, champagne, bubble, coffee, wine, water, doesn't matter, but let's go wash our hands.
Nice. So Chef Suzette's washing her hands. I just want to take 1 second and tell you guys how I met Chef Suzette. So I learned how to cook in Georgia, and I had been in a resort in Georgia for about 4 years, got to the end of it, and I worked insane hours, and I had never seen a Michelin rated restaurant. And so I took 2 weeks, I came out and set up 9 stages within 11 days, and one of those stages was at a restaurant named Acquerello. And I came in and Chef Suzette took care of me during my 2-day stage. Like I had worked at the restaurant for 10 years. And then fast forward 3 years after that, I ended up working at the French Laundry, spent 4 years there, left the French Laundry, and had this crazy idea to start Truffle Shuffle. Chef Suzette was the first chef that I called with this idea about starting Truffle Shuffle. She told me to go for it. And more importantly, she was the first chef to purchase truffles from Truffle Shuffle. And so truly over that period of starting this business in 2018, we built Truffle Shuffle off of working with Chef Suzette. And so I know right now is an insanely hard time for everyone, but it is a great honor to me to be able to bring her here. A portion of the proceeds of all the bags that you guys purchases will go to help support Acquerello and the team there. And we're donating a meal for every single healthcare worker. And so with that, we're able to get enough funds to prepare 200 meals for healthcare workers, which we'll be distributing between Monday and Tuesday. So that's awesome. I'm excited that you guys are here. And at the end of the class, I'll share a couple details on how we can all best support Chef Suzette and Acquerello at this time. Without further ado, we're going to bring Chef Seth, our Chef de Cuisine of Acquerello, up here, and they're going to show you guys how to make the most delicious lemon ricotta gnocchi that you guys have ever experienced.
Yay! Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chef.
I'm going to move this aside for 1 second, but there is kind of a little housekeeping. I'd like to share with you that last week I was a spectator and that I watched the risotto class, and I think really, honestly, seriously, did a fabulous job. But I'd like to give you a time frame because maybe you're tuning in, tuning out, running around, maybe you're still dealing with kids, maybe you have to set the table. So kind of what I'm thinking is how to have you be successful, number one, with the recipe, but number two, in our time frame today. So I'm kind of going to talk a little bit, give you about 15 minutes. Like I said, get your beverage, get ready. But I also would like to talk about your mise en place. We will actually go through the beginning of the recipe. We'll go through what's in your DIY bag. So if there's any confusion and you're missing anything, I have lots of tips, and the not nice word is hacks, but I have lots of tips today to help you get through that. We're going to show you the technique. We're going to cook them all the way through the sauce, finish, and plate. And we'll have a chance for you to be entering our chat box with any questions or emergencies or anything else that's going on. I'm going to ask you at some point if you're ready to give me a thumbs up. You just have to send me a thumbs up so I know that the bulk of us are ready to continue. So starting first of all, let's go through the DIY bag. You should have received this already. And in your lovely Truffle Shuffle bag, there should be some ingredients. My lovely recipe is meant to be straightforward and simple, so to cause as little confusion as possible, because your success is my success. What's really important to me is that you realize this is simple because you can have some items that were available in your pantry, but maybe you didn't. And so that's really important to discuss too. It's in this point, you know, we have a lovely ricotta in our kit, but maybe you couldn't get ricotta. So I don't tell anybody who's known of this, but if you had cottage cheese at home, you could drain and whirl it in your Cuisinart and make a substitution for the ricotta. If you have some other cheeses, you just need the malleability. So if you're feeling your inner chemist and you want to add a little liquidity, a drop of milk, a drop of any other type of liquid that would help it to get soft, you have to have resembling ricotta consistency. The egg yolks, self-explanatory. Parmesan cheese, I have to admit, when I first made these at home, I didn't have any Parmesan cheese. We hadn't been to the market for a good week. And I had Trader Joe's unexpected cheddar. So if you've had that yet, or if you haven't had that yet, it's actually quite delicious to eat. And it was really wonderful to have something that I could grate and put in because I had no Parmesan. It still worked. Black pepper, certainly. Meyer lemon from the garden today. The normal Meyer lemon is about this size. And so I'm going to ask you to microplane or take the skin off with a microplane. This is one form of a microplane that you might be familiar with. And to take it off and hold that before you go and cut the lemon open. When you do cut the lemon open, you're going to squeeze and get some juice and use a strainer, your favorite little tea strainer, and set that juice aside. I know I didn't give you a quantity, but it's about a half a tablespoon, certainly no more than a full tablespoon. So we'll do that when we get to that point in the recipe. As far as the flour goes, I do have a 00, which is just referring to the fineness of the grind. But indeed, if you only have all-purpose at home, you're absolutely fine. Salt, kosher, preferably today being Sunday, but if not, you can do anything, it's fine. Some of the tips and things, let's assume that you did not strain or drain your ricotta last night. I am not looking, you do not have to turn yourself in. There will be no one at your door. However, we'd like to show you a trick. So Seth, you and mine are gonna move this aside. We're gonna get some ricotta and put it either onto a paper towel or a fabric towel. Now, when I say fabric towel, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. The thing with the fabric towel is that you cannot have washed it with a lot of fragrance or with softener. It should smell like nothing, okay? This is a larger weave. It happens to be one of my favorite charities to support, by the way. I didn't say that, but there it is. And so you're going to actually take your towel and mark your space, fold it in half so you know where you can't go past. Put it down, and you are going to empty your ricotta. Bam. You can see this had dropped some of its liquid on its own. We're going to work this out into a small little bit of a triangle, rectangle. What's that word? Rectangle. And try and think of it as being maybe a quarter to a half inch thick. So you want to keep it in one place. Don't go out paper thin. That's not your goal. So look, that would be me pushing it back, okay? So when you're here, we're simply going to go like this. And flip it over. You can feel how much moisture has already been absorbed into the towel. If you have a super duper wet, you may want to go a little further, but I think I'm pretty good.
Should we show them a close-up of that?
Sure, would you like to? That's the wet side. And that's kind of the drier side. But the fun part is, like a book, we're just going to open this back up. If you feel that this is not dry enough, guess what? You can roll it in and even go further. You can be more aggressive. Some moisture is not bad. Just remember, it's the grain of the towel that's making it work here. So terry cloth is not what I'm looking for. Everyone knows what that is, right, in today's world? Paper towels, if they're not really thick and nice, make me worry a little because they can actually absorb into the cheese. But if you notice this right now, and Seth, if you have a bowl right there, and this, by the way, is Seth, in case I didn't say that clearly enough. He's our CDC.
Hi, everyone.
And I think I got most of it off. Just a little.
Looks pretty good.
Pretty section there. Surprising. So we'll call this a handy tip. You may remember last week that Chef Jason talked about tap stock. I love that term, tap stock. And I really have employed that many a time. Perfect terminology, otherwise known as water.
Tap stock. That's good. They should trademark that one.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, what Seth is going to do is put these things together. But what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about ahead of time is, why is this gnocchi? Okay, ricotta gnocchi, I'll let you open that. Ricotta gnocchi is different. This is not potato gnocchi. When Italy was in the process of being Italy many years ago, there was lots of things that were developing. There are 3 categories of gnocchi that you may or may not have heard of. So gnocchi originally, because you know potatoes were not in Italy until the 16th century, fun fact to know in case you didn't, they were squash, they were other types of vegetables, they were root vegetables, but they were not potato gnocchi. That didn't come till later. In the meantime, if you want to say the word dumpling, you would not be wrong. This is really in the family of dumplings. So you're adding some sort of a protein or something to help you hold it, and the cooking method is usually into water or stock. And if you've heard the name Canederli, which I'm betting many of you have not, from the northeastern side of Italy, is actually a bread gnocchi. It's made with breadcrumbs. Utilitarianism was really a driving force in Italy in lots of respects because of the need, whether prior to the war or after the war. When you're in the countryside and you don't have a lot of things, you do with what you have. So that mentality has carried through, I think, in a lot of the cuisine that's come forward. So there are about 3 different categories of gnocchi, one of them being the vegetable we just mentioned, and also you may have heard of gnocchi alla Romana. Gnocchi alla Romana is actually made with semolina, and contrary to popular belief, that is not corn, that's polenta, it is flour. But they make it like polenta. They cook it in hot water, sometimes milk, butter, salt, pepper, and it thickens. It's taken and poured into a pan and allowed to set up. Then a cutter is taken, or you can cut squares, and it's stamped out, taken out, and usually put into another casserole that's been buttered, layered with bechamel, or cheese, or naked, or can be served over a ragu. The possibilities are endless, but that's a different category. The 3rd category is the gnocchi parisien. It refers to Paris. It's a French terminology, but it's because they use pot au choux. Maybe you're not familiar with pot au choux, but if I said cream puff, I'd be willing to bet that you know exactly what I'm talking about. Profiterole, cream puff, eclairs, all the same dough. So it's a dough that when it bakes, it becomes hollow inside. So you can imagine how that would work with the gnocchi, that you had the parisien, you would add very little to it, maybe some forms of cheese. Would they add cheese, Seth, when you're making your Parmesan? Do you add cheese?
Usually I do, yeah.
Is it at the end when you have the mix coming together?
I usually put, when I'm mixing it, after I cook the pâte à choux, when I'm mixing in the eggs, I'll finish with cheese. And that's more of a seasoning. It's for flavor.
And then you'll have a pot of boiling water where you can actually, in a pastry bag, cut it over, or
Correct.
you could spoon it out and drop it quenelle style.
It needs to be poached or steamed or some way cooked.
So it holds
cook
its
the
shape.
eggs and protein sets up.
Right. Then how would you sauce that?
You could really do whatever you want with it. It's very stable. It's soft and tender, just like a potato gnocchi. But it has a lot of flexibility. You can have it with a meat ragu. You can have it with pesto. You can have it with tomato sauce.
I remember having it on the menu at Acquerello, and it was really a very popular item because it was so different than potato gnocchi. Now, potatoes, the reason I skipped the whole category of potatoes is because they are a critter unto themselves. Potato gnocchi are starch. And when you add flour, it's almost as if it's activating another level of starch. And you have a window of time in which the starches are letting down. So if you ask a Nona, the best potatoes are the ones that she's had in her cupboard for at least 10 days, 8 to 10 days, almost before they get eyes. The starches are silky and they're different. They're diminished, if you will. So then when they make them, they either boil them or they bake them, depending on how you feel about it. They peel them. Some people like to cook them what's called in their jackets, or they roast them and peel them. They put them in a bowl and often rice them through what we might know as a ricer or a passatelli, or they'll use a stamper, which can often be like mashed potatoes. So I get upset when I see the recipe online that says, oh, just use mashed potatoes. To me in America, that has an inference of the butter and cheese or butter, salt, pepper, or something else. Usually you start with fresh, clean potatoes. And then you're adding a small amount of egg to hold them, and you're adding flour, salt, pepper. But you have to have your water ready. You have to be ready that when you roll them and cut them and drop them, it's immediate. In Italy, a lot of times, the old grandmas, they use nothing but the potatoes and the flour. But honestly, if they drop them in the water and they come up to float, if you're not ready to receive them at that point, they dissipate. So that's scary to us Americans. We don't like failure, so we're not about to do that. But on the other hand, those are some of the lightest, most airy gnocchi that you're ever going to see. Seth is going to begin the recipe here a little bit. That was our history. He's going to start with the ricotta in the bowl. And you should have this lovely recipe from us, whether online or in your package. And the rest of the ingredients are going to go in pretty simultaneously. It's not going to be a time consequence. He can make the mix. It has a lot of time left on it. It's not going to fall apart or die. The only thing is I would always watch good sanitation means that you're working quickly enough that the food is not sitting out because there is an egg content. So you certainly don't want to have it sitting at room temperature for a long period of time. And you should store anything in the refrigerator that you don't use. Preferably, I would prefer that you make all of the gnocchi at one time. And I'll even tell you a little tip about how to either cook them right away or to blanch and hold, which means you could use them for tomorrow's dinner or have them later tonight, or maybe not eat all of them at one time. And so that's another little tip we'll get to in a moment. So with no further ado, Seth, if you'd like to jump in there,
Right.
Or actually we should go through the DIY bag. I'm sorry, I didn't do
Yeah,
that.
I want to go through all the ingredients.
You go
first.
through the ingredients.
All right. So we've gone through the ricotta, and this is a little trick that you can do if you did not remember to drain it overnight. We do have some that's drained back here. And this is what that might look like if you had drained that last night. And what you're going to have is a little bit of water in the bottom of the bowl. That's the whey from the cheese. And that would have drained off of the curds of the ricotta and collected in the bottom. And that's just going to keep that water out of our recipe, out of our gnocchi. So it's going to be a little bit more firm and we won't have issues with moisture.
If there's any questions along the way, please feel free to put them into our chat box so that our lovely narrators in the background can shoot us a question, or if you have a problem or an issue, or even if you're missing an ingredient.
All right. Next we have our flour, 3 egg yolks, the zest of half of a lemon and the juice of a quarter of a lemon, 4 tablespoons of butter, sage, Parmesan cheese, and then we have our fresh truffles. Okay.
So from this point on, remembering to put your pot on. So however you're working together, the pot of boiling water should be ready on your stove. And what I had Seth do to the right was get ready to have a small pot of boiling water or a pan so that you could do a tester. Whenever we do pasta in the restaurant, we always do testing. So a gnocchi is no less. We want to definitely make sure that you make your mix and you take a piece and you drop it in and then you taste it. Maybe it's missing cheese. Maybe you forgot the salt. Maybe you could use a pinch of pepper. So that's your last chance to adjust. So I want to make sure that you understand you have that ability to do so at that point. Once you are in the mode of cooking, then you are pretty much done. So you don't want to get to the point where you're eating it thinking, oh, I didn't have enough cheese. I wasn't seasoned well enough. Try to make that ascertain if that's the thing to do at that time. So Seth is going to start with his ricotta in the bowl. He has also drained it already, as you saw. He's going to add his 3 each large egg yolks.
Chef, before we get started, you guys are all at home. I hope you're comfortable and enjoying yourselves. I'm parched. Are you thirsty?
I'm totally thirsty.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Champagne. Chef.
Sarah,
Champagne.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh,
So cheers.
Cheers.
I'm hoping you're having a good time and finding all this information interesting and utilizing it for you now as well as the future. This is our having fun right now, but on the other hand, we do have a wine that was coordinated with this package, which we can talk about a little bit later, but it's called a Pigatto. And it was done by our wine team. Head of our wine team is Gianpaolo. And you can reach him if you have any questions. Also, info@1760sf.com. You can check on the website. I'm sure Jason was putting that up somewhere for me. He's the tech wizard. I am not. And so there are lots of wines that you could consider, but we were trying to find something that would go with cheese, with lemon, brown butter, and truffle. So there's 4 different components to consider. So moving forward, now that I'm not so parched, sorry. Perfect. We're going to start with the recipe. We've already done the ricotta, as you know. Egg yolks, 3 of them. You'll notice that there's not a lot of flour in this recipe. That is not a mistake. I have tried to really capture the ricotta. We tried to give you a really good ricotta. You notice how moist it is and clean and milky. I really want to taste that. So I don't like to add 4 ounces of flour, or I should say 4 ounces of cheese or 4 ounces of anything. I really want to taste the ricotta. He has also an ounce of grated Parmesan cheese. Now you can do that any way you see fit, but the lighter, fluffier is always better to not make little rocks, little granules in your ricotta. I like them light and fluffy. So we did go ahead. Now, if you had Grana Padano or you had Parmigiano, you could use other cheeses like Asiago or Romano, but they are sharper. They are sharper flavored. And I think it's easy, once again, to lose that ricotta flavor. The Myers lemon is a super bright, and I love the super bright. In the springtime at the restaurant, we often serve this with a vegetable sauce. Imagine spinach and zucchini pureed, beautiful bright green, and this lemon ricotta gnocchi. It's one of my signature dishes from a million years ago because I'm that old. But in the meantime, it's something that you can consider. If you would like to pair this with a vegetable sauce, it's entirely doable. Peas are right around the corner. Asparagus, incredibly good. Any of your greens, Swiss chard, anything that you can make a smooth puree, I think really goes with the texture. So you want to consider a vegetable that isn't really tough. I would prefer something that's creamy.
All right, so I'm just going to recap and slow it down a little bit. I want to make sure everybody has time to keep up with us in case you had to grate your cheese at home. So I have the ricotta, I've mixed in the egg yolks, and I've added the grated Parmesan cheese.
It's kind of churning in color too. It's getting a little more creamy yellow. It's not quite so white, so that's not alarming to anybody. Have you added your lemon in yet?
No, I'm right here with the eggs and the Parmesan, and that's all I've added so far.
Okay. So the good thing, once again, about this not being a potato gnocchi is it's really not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is when we do add the flour. But in the meantime, Seth's going to go ahead and probably add his lemon. And if you have to, maybe you want to demo the microplane for them as well, Seth, in case they do or don't have that. You could use a regular grater too. And I brought my handy dandy chef kit with me today because all of us have different things that we carry. But this is even something kind of silly and ridiculous. If you had one of these at home, you could use that. If you don't have that and you have to use a peeler, you could do that too. And we can even show you that. The thing about using a peeler is you have to take it off so thinly. I'm just going to do that to show you. And it works for other recipes as well. But you start at the top and you wiggle. Something like well. You just wiggle.
So is there a certain part of the lemon that you're trying to avoid by doing that?
There certainly is. You would be very proud to say that there's no pith attached to this at all.
What's the pith, Chef?
This is the white part, the pith. So that's not anything tricky other than you. You are the engineer. This is the engine.
And why might you want to keep the pith out of the?
Because it's so bitter, and it, you know, even though it looks white like it would go really well, it doesn't taste as well, especially in a raw format. So I'm going to do it one more time just so you can see. You just get close up on the skin and you catch it, and then you just wiggle. So there's no pressure, no depth. You're just trying to get barely under the skin. If you had a really hard time, you could go back and take your paring knife and take it off, but why not do it once and do it right? I know you guys have heard those words before.
That's right, Chef.
So, moving, your turn.
All right, I'll microplane, and I'm going to show you a little trick with the microplane to accomplish the same thing and avoid getting deep into the lemon and putting the pith and adding that into our ricotta. So I'm going to do a little, I'm going to start on one end of the lemon, and I'm going to curl it up like this, and it's going to just gently kind of rock against the microplane. And so it's going to take off a little bit of the zest here, but it's not going to go so deep that I'm grating the white part of the lemon.
And probably what's not showing, Seth, are you kind of moving the lemon to a different...
I'm holding the microplane still, and I'm just curling the lemon across the blade of the microplane.
But you keep moving, you're rotating the lemon too, so you're not in the same spot.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, yeah. And I'm going to do about half the lemon. And just knock it off here.
Can you guys see that at home? See how fine and fluffy it is? We were just talking about fluffy cheese, and fluffy lemons are right in there.
So we
Nice.
got one question. They
Yes,
want to know
sir.
how much parm do you add?
Well, in the recipe, my recipe says 1 ounce, but I can tell you that if you wanted a little bit more, you were using a different cheese that was more subtle. If you're using a sharper cheese, you could vary because the consistency here is governed by the egg yolks more than anything else. Certainly the cheese helps to dry it out, but it's the egg yolks that will bind this. So the cheese is not necessarily your binder as much as it's your flavor profile. It's also salinity.
Nice. And so what does an ounce of Parmesan cheese look like?
I think we have a piece right there.
This is 1 ounce.
So anyone that doesn't want to weigh it, that's about what an ounce looks like.
And we also saw how much
Right.
that was once it was grated because it's going to increase in volume a lot.
It'll look much
Filled this
bigger
full.
when it's
Mhm.
grated.
And anyone that has a kid at home, you have exactly 1 ounce.
And so when you're grating, just like we showed you with the lemon, don't be a brute. Don't go really hard. Stay light and fluffy. The microplane can also be done for the cheese as well. Do you have your microplane still there?
Yes.
So if you wouldn't mind, Seth, maybe to show them how to microplane light and fluffy. So I know it's really advantageous, you think, to go hard or get a bigger piece. But in this application, not. Light and fluffy is the key. That's because we want the ricotta gnocchi to be light and fluffy as well. So Seth is going to show you how to shave that. In the meantime, let's talk a quick little bit about sauces. We talked about vegetable purees, but we didn't really talk about tomato. Everybody loves gnocchi with tomato. This particular gnocchi is no different. It is also very good with tomato. It could be a cream sauce. It could be a meat ragu. It could be anything that your heart desires. However, what I would suggest is because of the lightness of the gnocchi, how I plate it would be different. So in other words, if you had made a beautiful vegetable ragu or a sauce or puree, I would prefer to see it down on the plate first with these gnocchi on top, especially that we're tossing them in brown butter. Let's say you don't like brown butter. You could do these in soft melted butter as well, depending on the delicateness or the hardiness of your sauce. So you still have lots of options, in my opinion.
All right.
Next.
What's next, Chef?
Well, after that, you have your cheese. It's already in. Black pepper, ground fresh would be lovely. And a little pinch of salt just to start at this point. And we're going to talk about flour. Once again, 00 being the finest grind, but not an absolute necessary. You could use all-purpose flour, but it's going to be important to season once over. And, you know, in the kitchen, culinarily speaking, we always talk about seasoning from the beginning, not the end. I think there's a question.
So we have a couple people want to know exactly where we at with the flour on the recipe.
We haven't done a
We
thing.
haven't done.
No
I'm
flour has
gonna
been
say-
added yet.
All right, we have one person. We're not going to call them out. They already added the flour.
So have no fear. You're
Okay.
safe. Stand firm.
Stand
We're
firm,
coming.
Stand by.
We're
We got
coming.
your back.
We got your
Wait
back.
for us.
We're coming.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll catch up.
So flour is going to go on the board as well as in the recipe. The quantity in the recipe is asked to be 3/4 of a cup or 6 ounces. And I just wanted to mention that if you don't have a scale at home, you really should. This is not just because you're a scientist. It's actually, I use it for so many things, even weigh my letters on here for postage stamps, but that's besides the point. You should have a scale because it's the most accurate way with to cook. So we said 3/4 of a cup or 6 ounces of flour. If you suspect there's any lumps, if you're worried about it being moist from being in the refrigerator, whatever, if you put it in the wrong, it doesn't matter. Seth has a strainer right there. If he needed to, he could strain it on top. You could strain it on top, but we're going to basically add the flour.
And the kits that they got came with 1 cup of flour.
Okay.
So they have some.
So that means that you're not adding the whole thing, right? Because our recipe says 3/4 of a cup, or that's approximately 6 ounces. So unless you've added all the flour, hoping you didn't do that, but 6 ounces should go in the recipe. The other 2 ounces were for your board and rolling.
So now we're
Okay.
getting a couple questions. They
Sure.
want to know, have you already added salt and pepper to this?
We did. I call this preliminary, but yes, we did. I doubt we'll have to add more because we're comfortable with the recipe, but they will taste at some point and be able to add more. But for right now, we started with something to begin with. And you might notice, and you know this in the industry, that when you add salt to something, it draws liquid out. So we want to make sure that we're not ODing on the salt because we don't really want to draw the liquid out. We want to keep it inside the gnocchi. There's no problem doing
Did
it
you
now. Like I
add
said, you're not on a
lemon
really
juice?
tight schedule like potato gnocchi would be. These are a little more forgiving. Okay, so everything's in now. Cheese, salt, pepper.
I got my lemon juice. I'm gonna have my
Lemon
lemon
juice.
juice, and
Oh,
then I
no.
think we're ready to add the flour.
You are correct.
How much lemon juice?
So if everyone could be sending me a thumb who's at this point, once you add your flour, so we can talk about our technique on the board. This is the rolling motion. So just let us know with a thumbs up if you're ready to roll. I think we're doing really good on our time frame. It's only 5 o'clock. My goal was to have you eating dinner and drinking wine by 6 at the very latest, if not 5:30.
Flour's
So-
going in. I'm gonna save a little bit.
There he did.
But
And he's just folding it in. There's nothing really tricky about this. You don't want to be, I hope you're not using any appliances at home to do this for you because you need to feel something once in a while. So please do not have this in your KitchenAid or your Cuisinart or your Robocoupe or no,
Don't
no,
do it.
don't do it.
Let's
Resist.
mention
Do not.
that Seth is the professional, but everyone else should measure out their flour.
Oh, so we obviously know that this is 2 ounces.
Yep.
In case we need some more, there's another bowl there. And if
How
you
much
added too
lemon
much,
juice?
it's okay. You're not going to die. Honestly, it's okay.
Mm.
I would prefer a little bit less because you'd be a little fluffier, but actually they're going to hold up and probably take a little more of a rolling action than what you might think.
This recipe is
Stephanie,
pretty forgiving, right?
it is pretty forgiving. Can you show them kind of what your
So
mass
I've
looks like
pretty
there?
much worked in all the flour now. And you can see that it's kind of come together as a dough. It's pretty homogeneous here.
Has everyone got their pot of water ready in the background so that they can drop their sample? It's important that when you test a gnocchi, potato, or any other kind except for the Romana, you want to make sure that you can drop and it resurfaces in a minute. This is our benchmark. So in the culinary world, when you make any ricotta or any vegetable or any potato gnocchi, you're always able to drop one, the water's boiling, it goes to the bottom. If you're worried about sticking, you could also take a rubber spatula or a skimmer. I brought you several to show you. And get it off the bottom, but it should rise to the surface of its own volition, and you should be ready to scoop it out and land. We call this in a culinary situation, where are you going to land? And cooks will say, oh, I have melted butter ready, oh, I have a ragu ready, I have a hot plate ready, whatever the case may be. But you should have some sort of a plan. So your couples there, or your single person, you want to project yourself. I didn't talk about flow of the kitchen either, but I think Seth has done a really good job of organizing his workspace here. But if you're working in tight quarters, you want to think about your progression. Like if your stove is over here, you're working, you're mixing, you're on a board, you're rolling, cookie sheet, landing, testing zone, pasta sauce, plate. So you
Right.
kind of want to think about your flow. I know sometimes we don't think about the end first, we think about the end last, and then we're sitting with a ricotta gnocchi, and it's getting softer and softer, the ragu's not ready, oh my gosh. So you want to avoid that if you can. Think a little further ahead and then back yourself out. So I think you're ready to go on the board.
Yeah, so if anybody's sort of a visual learner or a tactile person, you want to give this a feel now that it's come together. I'm sort of touching this, and you can see there's very little coming off onto my finger. It's nice and dry. The flour is binding the moisture of the ricotta. And this is ready to go on the board, I think.
I agree.
So I'm going to dust my board with a little bit of flour first, right, Chef?
Correct.
All right, so we're having a lot of questions about the flour.
Okay, so
Everyone
first
at home,
I have to do my favorite thing, and that is there a bowl of flour over there, Seth? There is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you see this on every cooking show. Okay, stand back.
all right,
Stand back.
live action.
Okay, that
Nice.
makes it work so much better.
Flour.
And then if you're nervous,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Here's my move. I like this one. I like the strainer, the little basket.
Very nice.
It's so professional.
So we're having a lot of questions. Basically, when we weighed out the flour for the kids, we did 1 cup total.
Right.
Put it
And I
in,
have to confess, I didn't know that. I should have forewarned them. I'm so sorry.
That's
and
okay.
so they just want to know what is that weight if they do happen to have a scale?
6 ounces,
6 ounces.
2
and
ounces
then-
reserved for the roll.
And then if they need a little bit more flour, can they use a little bit of all-purpose?
Absolutely.
Beyond
just
the
a-
8 ounces?
Yeah, if they added all the flour first.
Well, we just
Yes.
did a scoop.
Okay.
So it might not.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you used all the flour, then yes, you need some more for your board. You're not going to use much more, but you need to be what I call
Just to keep it from
Coated.
sticking on the board.
coated. So
Perfect.
he's going to make this into almost like a little pie dough, a little pie, a little pizza, whatever you want to think of as round, and cut himself with his knife into 6 pieces. That was very poor grammar. Cut the base into 6 pieces. Why? Because you're trying to get consistency. You want to be able to roll each one of those little wedges into a coil. Your goal on the coil is 3/4 of an inch thick at the most, maybe 5/8, a little bit variation. And you're going to cut pieces, which gnocchi can actually mean the knuckle. So a knuckle in my world is only about that big, another 3/4 of an inch. That's kind of your guideline and your goal. I'll break out the ruler because I know we have some control people in the audience, not me, of course.
What's that? 1 lemon.
How much lemon juice? 1/4 of a lemon.
My ruler over there?
I don't have a ruler. No.
Okay, do you need a knife? Here's a knife.
Sure.
Okay, and since we have a knife out, this is a bench scraper, often known as a dough scraper, often known as that white thing that the cooks have in their back pocket. Where is that? But it's wonderful when you're baking bread because when something's really sticky in a bowl and you can't get it away, this guy can. You can lightly coat this in flour and pull away from the bowl, or in this case, you can pull it off the board. So we're gonna keep that in the immediate close vicinity in case he needs that. And I don't know what I did with my ruler, but I know it's here somewhere.
Chef, we actually have a
There's a couple questions here.
measuring tape.
Okay, well, I think that's okay, but I'm just wondering what I did because I had it with me today. And the chef kit uses it. Oh, you know what it is? The ruler is invisible.
Not
There it is.
Hey guys, if
Okay.
your dough is looking especially dry, what would you recommend?
Has everything been added? If everything's been added, you have some options. Especially dry makes me think that maybe another egg. What do you think if she whipped up an egg or he whipped up an egg in a cup and had a little bit they could add? Because the albumin has more moisture than the yolk. The yolk's higher in fat. So my thought would be to maybe whisk a whole egg, but don't put the whole thing in. Take a spoon, like a teaspoon, and try and add some to just you're incorporating coming back. The question is if you have any more ricotta. I don't think
You know,
so.
I might even, if you have at home a little bit of, if you have a little bit of ricotta at home, that would be ideal. I think
Add more
probably what
cheese.
happened is you added a bit too much flour because maybe the bench flour wasn't reserved. If you have any ricotta at home, or even a little drop of milk, might be
Yes,
better.
another liquid that's in that same venue. That would be correct too. So all I'm showing you this for is to give you an idea of what 3/4 of an inch looks like. So there's a 1 inch from there to there. And you could, no one's coming around your house to measure what you're doing right now, but it's, desirable to think about the size you're going to eat. I like to think about bite size. So I like the 3/4 of an inch process or the thought. So what Seth is going to do now is he's simply going to roll. And I want to show you the motion really easily while you're there is that this should feel nice and moist. Okay. And he's got these really nice wedges here, which I don't want to block your view, but I'm going to move this for a second. And maybe Tyler, you can get in here because it's sticking to my fingers a little bit. So I am making sure that I am plied with a little flour so I don't have to add flour to the mix. It's nothing wrong with the mix if there's some moisture here. It's got to do with my technique and my motion. Okay. So just so you see, my hands are clean now and the ricotta is not really taking on a lot more flour. So that was just a little thought that I had in case you were struggling with that at all. Seth, how's your coil? How does it feel?
Feels pretty good. It's nice and tight. Don't have any problem rolling it on the board. If you do, if it's sticking in a little spot, you can just add a touch more flour. It's not going to hurt it to have a little bit more flour on the exterior.
Well, tell them too, when you have gnocchi on the menu right now, how do you make gnocchi? That's another, it's a ravioli gnocchi, which I didn't mention, but it reminds me of this gnocchi application because don't you make a big bed of flour?
Yeah, gnocchi's a little bit different in that it's a nude ravioli. So it's a gnocchi where the flour is not put into the mix. So it's a very, very soft and supple. When it's made traditionally, I think it's a very rustic preparation and it almost just falls apart. You can barely even take it out of the water and put it in the pan and transfer it to the plate before it's just melting cheese. The way that we make it at the restaurant is that we combine the ricotta with eggs and season it, and then we submerge it and bury it in flour. Creates a thin coating of flour on the outside that's barely perceptible, but it keeps it contained.
Right, so the history of the ravioli gnocchi actually predates ravioli. Because when you think about it in mankind, we didn't really know how to take that harvested wheat and use it other than a grain whole. So we hadn't developed how to grind it. We hadn't developed the refining process at all. So ravioli gnocchi is exactly as it sounds. It's the filling without the casing, ravioli being the casing. So that was treated a lot like a dumpling and dropped into boiling stock or boiling water as well. But in order to preserve the exterior, we make a bed of flour and drop them into the flour and coat them again with another layer of flour. And how long do they stay under?
12 to 24 hours.
And so when they get done, imagine, if you will, a shell, a flour shell protecting that filling so that we can handle them, drop them into our pasta cooker and pick them up and sauce them as we will. How are you feeling about this? Is this
I
good?
think it's pretty good. How's this width for you?
I think I kind of like the little skinnier part.
Touch skinnier?
Yeah, a touch skinnier. So for me, I'm always looking for the yield and I'm thinking about how much this is going to make. Maybe you can't possibly even eat this all tonight, so no problem. We are intending to drop these into boiling water and come up into brown butter. I don't know if Chef Vorace wants to help us with the brown butter, but I'm sure he can hand over his technical duties. And if you wouldn't mind to put some brown butter for us in a pan and very low and slow create brown butter. The mistake with brown butter many
I'd love
times.
to do that, Chef.
Thank you.
Chef, real quick, what is brown butter? Can you explain that to me?
Well, let's start. That's a very good point. Whole butter is, let's say, European style. which is about 83, 85%, what they're referring to as the butter fat content. Sometimes our American butters are a little bit less, but a European style butter has a higher fat ratio. Butter itself, when you have 100%, is 85% fat and 15% water and whey. Water and whey are usually allowed when you're making butter or certain things like clarified butter. You might have heard this term. When you heat up the butter and you bring it up, the water and whey come apart from the butter, and you're able to sequester the pure fats. And some people might know it even as ghee, G-H-E-E. And it's a pure, as it's going to get, 99.9% just fat. So it's often used for sauteing because the smoke point is much higher. The flavor is great, but it doesn't carry the water and whey, which are what will evaporate and or burn. So you want to, when you go to a brown butter, is capture the browning of the solids and the whey. So you're allowing the butter to heat slowly enough that it separates, but heat long enough that you caramelize the water and whey, which those particles float up into the butter to make an elegant, delicious sauce all of their own accord without even adding anything. But if you go too hot or you go too fast, you'll get beurre noir. Beurre noir is black butter and not always as desirous when you're making this particular sauce. If you were making a gumbo or making a black roux in Louisiana, you'd be A-okay. But tonight we're in a different country, so no.
All right.
What are you doing, Chef?
Chef, I got a little bit of butter browning.
Okay.
So am I adding all this butter or just a little bit?
So what I think you should do for us is take the bigger pan and do your brown butter in there, because that small pan is for our melted butter sample.
Excellent.
So we'll still use the pan and we'll still use the butter, and he's not too far away from doing that. Do you know if our water is boiling in the back?
Can I add all this
Check
butter?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be your receptacle. That's going to be the brown butter receptacle. So he's going to put all of the butter in there. That's correct. So you may have to steal from your house if you have used all of this to make your brown butter. You need one little dribble to make your sample.
All right, we got a couple people that just want to make sure that they're not too far behind.
Okay.
I think now might be a good time. We can ask anyone if they want to just ask us questions and actually show us their dough on camera.
Oh, great.
We'll have Chef Suzette inspect it for you.
No grades. I do not give grades.
No grades.
This is all pass. All pass. No fail.
And then
No grades.
everyone can give us a thumbs up sign before we fully move on to the brown butter stage.
All right.
All right. So the coils, Sarah, are you able to show them the coils? Are they happy with what the coils are looking like? Pretty consistent. You can see how he's easily moving these around the board. It's a non-issue in terms of they're not picking up a lot of flour. There's a lot of flour. He's only got flour here for the next coil that he's rolling. And we're going to start to do the cut and shape. Now, as I said before, there's lots of different shapes you can do. Today is super soft pillow shape, which is the easiest. But if you're feeling adventurous and wanted to roll it on a butter curl board, or you wanted to pull it off with kind of a fork, or you wanted to make an elliptical football, these are all options. The ricotta one's one of my favorites to make the elliptical, and maybe I'll just show you that while we're doing something in the meantime. Are there any questions
Chef,
there?
a couple people are rolling and it's still a little
Help.
messy.
Well, that would be flour either on the board or on their hands. They don't need to add any flour to the recipe.
Okay.
That's just technique. So you have to get comfortable with what it feels like to have your fingers coated in flour, okay, and your board lightly coated in flour, because the gnocchi is picking it up, okay? So it's picking it up. So let's do a little elliptical for the fun of it. I'm going to grab a spoon, reach across, and about what size I want. Could you pass me the bowl of flour there, please, Chef Lorace?
Yep.
Thank you.
Remember, flour.
Thank you. So I'm just going to lightly flour my hands because they are my tool of choice at the moment. I'm going to take this and roll it like a ball. Okay? And now I'm going to do the letter V, like Vorace.
Like Vorace.
Okay? So there we go.
Vorace.
Now it's getting tacky, but I can feel that. And so I am the engineer, right? I can read that. So I'm thinking, maybe I want a tiny, tiny bit more flour so that I don't stick, and I want to finish that shape. Voila, a football, Vorace.
Nice.
The football.
Football.
See?
Love football.
So I love football. Here we are. And just in case you
I
think.
heard you're supposed to go make this in a wine glass. Is that right?
Yes, okay.
We
Sarah,
get fancy here?
we need a wine glass.
We need a wine glass.
This is really what was on Acquerello's menu a million years ago as malfatti. And Liza Shaw, if you're out there, she certainly is the expert. She made a bazillion of these guys, but they were so popular back in the day. So we're gonna see if this works. If not, I'll look really silly to a lot of folks. Okay.
This isn't quite the same recipe, but
Yeah.
see if we can adapt.
The malfatti that we, or sorry, the maltagliati malfatti that we made before was Swiss chard and ricotta, so it had a little more body. But you can see, like my work board, I'm trying very hard to make sure the flour is there. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go here. And I'm gonna go here.
Nice.
Think how much fun that could be.
Awesome.
And there we are. It could be, in my mind, a little more oval. I probably have a little rusty technique going on there, but it's supposed to be a little bit more like that. That's what it's supposed to be, a little more elliptical. And if I actually, we used to use a water glass at Acquerello, it was a little different shape. And so you can imagine that when it's this direction, that's what you're trying to shape.
There you go.
There you go. A
Rounding
little
it
better.
out.
A little bit better. Rounding them out. A little bit better.
Nice.
Put me on the spot there, but it comes through.
Awesome.
There you go.
Okay.
That was
Feeling
one, that was,
adventurous at home when you want to try it.
Yeah, don't do that with your wine in the glass. Big mess. Big mess. Not good.
Okay, so we got a brave volunteer.
Okay.
uh-oh.
And is that brave volunteer showing us their dough?
Oh, we got a muscle emoji and a clap.
Whoa! Thank you.
Still got it, Chef.
Some days.
All right, Chef, what's happening with our butter over here? What do we got?
So
All right.
Chef Borace is diligently watching the butter not do a whole lot of anything, but that's the
Diligently.
kicker. That's the kicker. The butter could turn in any moment. It's kind of like a girl changes her mind in a drop of a hat. So you got to really watch. You got to really watch. I'm a girl, so I can say that. You got to really watch. So if you see that you're getting really hot in one spot, you move your pan. If you see it's going too quickly, you can hear. We are using our senses, by the way, fellow chefs.
Right.
Eyes, nose, mouth, but your ears are one of the most important tools you own in a kitchen. It has a lot to do with where you are and what you hear. I can hear things that are burning behind me. I can hear things that are not going right. I can hear cooks that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you want to make sure that you are listening to your pan. How hot is it going? What's the little bubble ratio?
I hear something going on right now.
Chef senses.
I can hear something right here.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
going on? There's a little bubble.
But what did he do? He stirred it.
We're
What was that
swirling it.
motion? Can you show us that motion again?
All right, you guys ready for this motion?
So we're ready.
So what does that do? We're redistributing the solids. We're redistributing the fat so that we're causing it to tumble upon itself and give us a different contact point. So imagine when metal and something caramelize, they're in contact. Well, butter's no different even if it is liquid. So you have to make it move so that different parts of the butter can actually make contact with metal.
Yeah. And so, Chef, if I got little bubbles coming up,
It's a good thing.
That's a good thing, right?
It's a good thing.
That's what we're looking for.
If you are turning brown too quickly, you could still have bubbles. You're watching color and bubbles. And you're smelling too, because what does brown butter really smell like? It's very nutty, very caramelized, it's sweet smelling.
Yep.
And if you arrive to that point really quickly and didn't have a lot of browns because you're burning the butter. So it's got to be a lower, slow process. Now, as far as the coils go, I think these are looking really great.
So Chef, we still have someone that's a little concerned. It's still a little too sticky. They're starting to kind of get a little worried a little bit.
Okay. Can they show you what's going on? Did they go back through their ingredients and make sure that they're all good? Is all of their
Sarah,
flour?
we just want to make sure that you've got flour on your board, you've got flour on your hands, you're feeling good, you're rolling it out. Might be a little bit sticky, but just add a little bit more flour to your hands.
And to the board a little bit.
To the board.
He's not going to hurt the gnocchi because remember, we are going to cut these so that it'll act as the casing. It's not a bad thing. And a lot of it will come off actually in the boiling water, so it's not a bad thing.
Okay.
You just don't want to add tons internally. So external is pretty good, just like the gnocchi that we described. In fact, that's why I want Seth to eliminate, because people don't realize you can cause a shell to form, which is not a bad thing. It protects the gnocchi a little bit.
Love
It's going
gnocchi.
quicker. How
These are
come
one of
it's
my
going
favorites.
quicker? It's
right.
because the water is evaporating out and the whey solids are staying in. So the whey buddies don't have their water to protect them. Hence, they're going to start to color.
That's
They're
true.
going to caramelize.
Max Robbins would like to compliment your motion there.
Chef
Oh,
Max
thank
Robbins,
you.
how's this motion look to you, Chef?
Do it again for us. Make sure you didn't just have a good, one-time roll. Now, we are in a straight-sided pan right now. This is not a sauté pan per se, which has a softer, rounder side, which allows for flipping and saucing things as well, which you see very scarily done in kitchens when people are going like this. They never wear anything, nothing flies. I don't recommend you do that with brown butter. The burning, the marks will think you're a cook right away.
I smell
I'm not-
something going on with the butter here.
Oh,
I think we're getting pretty
oh,
close.
Oh, yeah. So once you see it start browning,
It's going to go quick, right?
So are we
You-
worried about carryover?
yeah, exactly.
So metal has
So Chef, what
carryover
do you,
no matter.
Chef, what do you think about my butter over here?
I live dangerous. One more. 10 more seconds.
All right, you guys
10
see
more.
that?
Do it level so they can see the depth.
Mhm.
Go back because I can't see
Can't
past the
quite
foam.
see it. It's a little
See the
foamy.
brown? See the brown? Smelling good. Smelling good. Kind of like
Oh my
toasted
gosh.
bread. Like
Yep.
toasted bread.
Delicious.
But you don't want to go too far. Now remember
Nope.
that your pan, your stainless steel pan or your copper pan or whatever you got, it's going to conduct heat. It's going to hold heat longer then it's on the heat. So when you take it off and you set it aside, it's going to continue cooking the butter.
Right, and
So you don't
that's
wanna go
my
too
10
far.
seconds I said, and you're out. You're out, chef.
We got a little induction over here, so it's just
Up,
warming.
That's it.
How
you're
much
done.
butter
Alright.
did we do
Love you,
again?
bye.
You guys see that? Finito.
So it's a little
Beautiful.
harder to see because there's no large quantity there, and his pieces aren't really huge. Doesn't really matter. The flavor is what we're talking about.
All right.
It's all about the flavor.
We're going to pull that off.
So
and set
Chef,
it
I'm gonna pop
aside.
this on my little trivet over here.
It's got a
Good.
trivet on the side.
All right, so
Amazing.
we have Emily Martin who wants to show her dough.
Show
Oh,
your
yes.
dough, Emily.
Okay.
Oh, hi,
Here we go.
Emily. We're
Water.
great. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Chef, we need some feedback here.
Emily, we're talking technique, and if you can, Sarah, come
Yes.
give me a little spot here.
Yes, chef.
Okay, so what you're looking at,
Here,
look
so
at my
Chef,
board.
I just got to pop it back to our camera.
Okay, look at our board. Okay, and it looks like she's already on a cookie sheet. She's not supposed to be there.
Don't
Oh
be
shoot. Well, I know, and I got behind on the butter. I'm really. I'm- Anyway.
Okay, so Jason, what I want to show her is to get back on her board because that cookie sheet's where she's going to land with her finished product. And also, I don't see wax paper down there.
Oh, that's
Nope.
You need to have wax paper down. So
Good
you,
tip.
you won't be able to lift off, okay? So here we are, ringside. I've got this beautiful gnocchi that Seth has just rolled. I'm going to put down my famous disappearing ruler, if I can put my hands back on it, just to give you perspective. I don't know if that shows up or not, but here we are. So this should be like this. This is of flour on your board, flour on your hands, and rolling. You don't have enough flour if you're that tacky and you're not smooth. See how smooth these are, Miss Emily Martin?
Yep.
Smooth, smooth. You got to find your smoothness.
I've got a lot of work to do.
Okay, let's think about
Gonna
ceramics.
smooth like Chef
We'll wait for
Suzette.
you. Don't worry.
That's right.
Think of like ceramics. Look at this. I'm gonna live really dangerous. I can pick this up.
Mm.
I would venture to say you can't pick that up. So if you have to, get a spatula or your handy dandy bench scraper. And if you have to cut it in half in order to pick it up and move it, so be it. Sometimes
Okay.
desperate times call for desperate measures. Okay? Get back on your board. Back to the board.
Don't be afraid to put too much flour on your board, really.
We're going to do it again just to show you. Okay? And we're going to roll through it. Notice that my gnocchi's picking up some, but really not a lot. You need more. You just don't have enough. So I'm going to roll into my other roll. Notice this guy's not even letting down, which is what potato gnocchi would do, which makes it so unforgiving. I think my end piece is too wide. I can roll that further. If I could roll it, there we go. Now I'm good. I'm into roll number 3. I'm rolling around on the board, checking where my flour is at, stretching and rolling. You got to be able to do this, Emily, or it's not going to quite finish right. And those would still cook. You could spoon drop them for the record, but it's not going to end up looking like ours look like at all. They probably would taste fine, but I'm a little nervous about the holding together, thinking how wet that is. So you need to definitely add some flour back.
So not game over.
Not game
Don't
over.
lose faith.
Yeah, don't leave the team. We got you.
We got it.
Okay, can I start to cut? Where are we at? We got thumbs up coming from our crew?
Well, so let's just recap with everyone.
Mm.
Let's act as if like these are our mini soldiers out here.
Right.
So where should all of our current line cooks be at in their gnocchi making process?
I think that if you're making the whole batch, that we should still be in rolling mode, judging by how long we've been talking. Maybe that's not been enough time, but let's go to rolling mode. So notice I made these little shapes before. I'm just putting them back together. That's how forgiving this dough is. This is not an issue at all.
And it's probably a good, if you boil this dough and it doesn't look perfect, it comes out delicious still though,
It
right?
still tastes pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good.
Do we want to lift these out of the way onto a cookie sheet so I can roll these other ones maybe? Because I'm just going to go back with you, Emily, and this is what my dough looked like to start. So Jason, you've got me pictured there, right? So she
Yeah.
can see this? See,
Yeah.
it's pretty darn wet. I'm not sticking my finger all the way through it, but I could. But I want to show you how in my hands, it's putty. We're talking Play-Doh here. We just want some Play-Doh. Okay?
So you want me to start over and ruin all these logs, basically?
No offense, Em, but your logs aren't really ruined.
Okay, so that's cool. I'll do a fresh
They're
start.
not ready. Let's choose
They're
a
just
better
not
word.
ready. Yeah.
They're just not ready. So even though you took time and love to make those logs, they're not loggy enough. Okay? They need to be real coils or rope. How about rope? Take your logs and move into rope. Okay, so you're watching this, Sarah, as you can see. Emily,
Yes.
you're watching what I'm doing, right? See the finger spread? Oh, those are much better. Emily, are you working on them?
This is Kevin. You're doing
Kevin,
a great job.
Kevin, good job, Kevin. Just smooth them out, Kevin. Smooth them out. Think long and roll. When I'm rolling, look at this. I start here and go like this. That's the exaggerated motion, okay? Start in the middle and roll out. If you feel like you're heavy-handed on the right and you make a divot, roll back into the left. If you feel like anything about this isn't quite right, you can fix it. That is why I did this recipe with you. Now, I'm pretty happy with this coil. I'm gonna take my pinky fingers and I'm gonna push it in on the ends so it's consistent. And I'm gonna let you guys take this away to wherever your other ones went as well. And I'm gonna do another one. Kevin, are you re-rolling those, dear? You need to re-roll those, get them smooth. They're pretty good, but you see how you can see the dipples from your fingers? That should not be the case. Can you show Chef Warache? See how smooth these are? You cannot see where the fingers have been. It's all in technique, folks. No magic thing is gonna do this, it's you. You have to believe. Notice I'm reflouring my board. And here we go. Starting with my index fingers as best buddies. And rolla. I'm sure if you had a kindergartner in the house, they could probably demonstrate the Play-Doh technique for you. Notice that I'm just pulling it out. Okay, that side's too big. I am not worried. I'm just rolling it out. Rolling. The minute I feel my hands get too moist or I'm picking up too much of the dough, there we go, back in rolling mode. It's not a lot, it's just how. So now this of lemon. Oh, we have light, thank you. Old folks, hard to see. Okay, so I'm just working that in until it's smooth. I got some finger dipples in there. Kevin, how you doing? Are you live, Kevin?
Kevin's good.
It's good.
We're back at it.
We're back. How's Emily?
Everyone's ready to see how this brown butter goes.
Okay, so we're gonna.
I'm okay. I have one log done.
Look at that, Emily!
There you go. Get Emily.
Can you see it?
You
Anyway.
too to make gnocchi.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now you guys want to see how we're going to do this brown butter from start to finish. So if you have two people, one person can be rolling your dough just like Chef Suzette is, and then the other person can be starting the brown butter.
And when I get to the last one, I'll show you how to cut. So Seth, what are you doing over there?
We're going to demonstrate the brown butter just one more time. In case
Good.
we got it a little bit ahead of people.
I think that's smart.
Okay, we have a couple people requesting to show us on the live video.
To show the
Just,
brown
just
butter?
check in on them.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
let's go there.
okay. Hello? Do you want to show us your recipe so we can make sure it looks good?
But that's what we want to see.
Sure.
Just show me. Don't show anybody else.
Okay. Here's Suzette. She's looking.
Okay. Oh my gosh, Nancy, how are you? Show me. Well, that's perfect. Let me see. I can't knit the way you do, so show me your gnocchi. Girl. Show me that gnocchi.
There it is.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Okay, I think you should put this bottle of alcohol down and work on your rolling. Sorry.
Brutta ma boni, no?
Oh,
What?
nice.
Okay, so that's off the heat now, guys. Good job. A+ butter. Off the heat. Okay, so look, can you see, Jason, can you? No, look at what I'm doing. See this? Roll. Nancy, Play-Doh. Play-Doh, Play-Doh. Okay? Miss Nancy here was my daughter's preschool teacher.
Oh,
And my daughter's 24, so we have some history.
Nice.
all right.
Thanks,
Nancy,
Nancy.
we're gonna try to help another person. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Nancy.
Keep
Thanks,
on
Nancy.
rolling.
All right, so now start to finish, how do you make brown butter?
Okay, so we're back over here. All I'm doing is melting the butter right now. You guys are probably familiar with this. You do it for your popcorn at home. I've got the heat on about medium. You can't see it on it's not a gas stove, it's induction, but it's about medium high heat. And all the butter's doing right now is melting. It's going to take a little while. You want to do it nice and slow. You don't want to rush this. You don't want to do it too high, or else you risk burning it if you cook too quickly.
Okay, we have one more request.
Okay, are we
Sorry
ready?
guys, I'm gonna put one more person on here.
What we got?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a Dyla chef. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not steal my idea. I want to be the Dyla chef.
1-800 Suzette.
Yeah. For once, my name pays off. Crepe
Can
Suzette.
you freeze the dough?
We haven't gotten to that part.
Okay.
You can freeze this, but in a different way. It's not the dough; it's the finished product.
Understood.
So we will get to that in a moment. But don't. I hope they're not giving up and freezing the dough now. That's not good.
Don't
Don't
give
do
up.
that. Yeah, don't give up. That's
Okay.
not good. Okay.
All right.
So
I think
yes,
Melissa's okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
Melissa,
I think
hang
she's
tight.
gonna be all right.
we're
Okay.
getting there. So can I start to cut?
Yep.
Okay, because it's gonna take too long otherwise. I'm gonna be dying on the vine. Over there starving right now. I can tell. So we're just talking about 3/4 of an inch, which is right there. We're gonna go here. I'm gonna show you with my handy dandy bench cutter, and I'm gonna dress it with some flour, which it won't pick up very much. I'm gonna start. Can you see that? Okay. Are you there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking
So
good.
I'm squaring it off. I'm thinking about my coil, and I'm gonna do 1. Woo! It looked good. Now I'm gonna try and do it again. 2, 3, 4, 5. No sharp tools are needed. 6 pillows of pleasure right here. 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, maybe that's a little too long. It's okay. 11, 12, 13, and 1 to grow on. We're gonna add him to the other guy. So you can see they started out pretty consistent, I think. And there they are. I just like to kind of think of them as little pillows. I like to make sure there's no little hang-ons, cling-ons hanging on the edge. You don't even have to do this. It's not even necessary. I'm just being, chefy poo, kind of an anal retentive. But I'm just looking to make sure they're similar size. Why is that important? Because they need to cook similarly. That's what's important, is that they need to cook similarly. Meaning, if I had one that was this size and one that was this size, they would not cook the same. So the water is your medium of heat source. The transfer has to be able to penetrate the gnocchi to set it up and make it firm. You may have a little wet spot in the middle, which is fine. That's the moisture. As long as there's enough of a shell to protect it. Otherwise, when you go in the brown butter and you try to toss them, they'll just break apart. So we don't want that. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen based on this recipe. That's why it's engineered the way it is, and it's higher in egg and lower in other stuff. So that's kind of what they look like right there. And now if I would take my handy dandy bench scraper and I would go back onto that sheet pan, I'm going to be so scary. Oh, look at this. Just going to we should flour our pan though. Can you reach over the chef and do a little sprinkle on the pan?
What if people don't have parchment paper at home,
Wax paper.
or any wax paper?
Okay, no wax paper. How about saran wrap?
Okay, great.
How about a very fine textured towel?
Or even a nice, if you just have a clean tray,
Clean tray,
and you keep it
stainless
well
steel.
enough floured.
And then flour.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
My only problem is that sometimes you have cookie sheets at home, and not that I did this at all, but you have cookie sheets that are rather dark in color, and sometimes you've had them for a while and they get rusty, and you don't realize that when you put something wet on them, they pick up what's on the pan. So I'm sure that does not exist in anyone else's household, but yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
And we're looking for about 3/4 inch.
That is,
shape there.
let's do the report card right there, see how close I am. And we're not going to centimeters because metric is too hard. Whoa! Damn, better than I thought it was. Now you can go fast like a maniac, but if that thing sticks to your little board, your bench scraper, you'll be sorry.
And can they cut it with a knife if they don't have a bench scraper?
Sure they can. I'm even saving all my little dippy
All
dobbies
right,
over
Jason, you
here.
want to check back in on the brown butter here?
Yeah, how we doing on this brown butter, Seth?
So we hear a little sizzle and pop, and as we mentioned before, that's the water in the butter evaporating, and we're going to be left with just the fat and the milk solids. And this is the important time where you want to keep a close eye on it and keep it moving, keep stirring the pot, and make sure that it doesn't brown too quickly on one side. So as soon as that water's gone, that's your buffer. That's what's protecting the milk solids from darkening. As soon as that's gone, they're going to start to take on color from the heat, and that's when you want to be really careful, slow it down a little bit, take your time, get it nice and even.
And what happens in brown butter, and what makes brown butter special?
you're toasting the solids of the milk in the butter. So Chef Suzette mentioned the percentages that butter usually makes up. It's usually about 80 to 85% in fat, depending on who makes your butter. And the rest is made up of whey and solids from the milk. So we're evaporating that water, we're left with the fat and the solids are just going to toast slightly from the heat. So it's almost like frying the milk solids. If you've ever had like instant milk or non-fat milk, that powder, that's sort of like what we're toasting. So it's it exists in butter, and once the water's gone as the buffer, the fat and the heat are just going to kind of toast it and fry it lightly, and it creates this really nutty, delicious, very, very aromatic flavor, which you can toss your gnocchi in. It's delicious.
And then how do you know when it's done?
So you don't want it to be black. That's why it's called brown butter.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to see it to be black. We don't want it to be smoking. We just want to. You're gonna smell it. You'll know what it is when you have it in your kitchen. You're gonna smell it. You're gonna look for the color. I'll show you this one that we made earlier. And what you can see is these solids right here. These are the milk solids that have been toasted lightly in the fat. And you can see they're nice golden brown. There's a little bit of dark stuff in there, and that's okay. If you want to make one and burn it, if you have extra butter in your house, if you're curious what that's like, just for a contrast, you'll know the difference. But this is just nice, lightly toasted solids of butter.
Very nice. And would you say brown butter and truffles are cousins, best friends?
They're lovers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Truffles go great with heat and fat. And so when you shave the truffles into nice warm brown butter, the aroma of the butter and the aroma of the truffles just elevates, and it's ethereal.
Sarah, are you there, Jason? I just want to show her when to cut the bounce. I'm going to call this the bounce. So there's just no fear of this part. You're not going to mess it up. Big or small, thick or thin. The bounce, so that I can tear right through, making sure I'm not sticking.
Very nice.
We got the wiggle, the bounce.
There you go.
Recipe takes some time, but once you get it down, you can impress
It's really
anybody.
a very quick recipe, and I made this a couple weeks ago with my daughter's 24, who's never cooked this before, and she was like, "Mom, if I only knew." So now I'm like, "Oh, so you're making them?" She's like, "No." So I thought I had it nailed, but not quite. Do you need to see that one more time? This is my last foil. Notice that I rolled these a while ago, and I can pick them up and transport them. And I'm still able to put a little bit of flour down just to make sure everybody's good. It's all good. Making sure my card, some people call this a card, is clean. I hold it down. I'm thinking about my knuckle being my measurement. I'm bouncing my way through.
How many servings would you say this is?
I can go back and count, but I want to say it was 50 or 60 pieces. So depending on how much I served it for three of us.
That's a very personal question.
Yeah. I served it for three of us. And my daughter's like, "Mom, you didn't make enough." And it was a lot. So it's pretty funny. And we had it with the brown butter sage. Depends how much you like gnocchi, I think.
And so if they have a little dough left over, if they're
Notice-
just cooking for 2 people, they can save that?
No, we're not saving any dough. You're making this.
We're
We're
making
not
it.
saving dough.
We do not save
We
dough.
do not save the dough.
Nope.
No, we are making all of this. I will show you what to do with it when you make it. But the whole idea of this class is that you make the dough.
Mm.
What would happen if we save the dough? Let's play devil's advocate. What happens? Chef Borace, when you have a dairy product and you have eggs, you have cheese, salt, pepper, we've mixed it, we've handled it.
Yep.
Now what?
I mean, our flour is gonna start hydrating. It's gonna start getting. It just gets weird. Gets weird.
It's weird.
Gets weird.
There's a highly technical explanation.
Yeah.
Folks, it gets weird.
All right, Chef, we got Blake who wants to show their gnocchi real quick.
They can show me, but is anybody tasting? What did I not do? Did we read our recipe? I didn't taste my dough. He did though. I'm all good.
How these look? That looks pretty good.
Hired. We'll be back to work next month. Are you available? Kind of late.
I'm totally not a chef in any way, and I never cook, but I thought the recipe sounded really good. So this is like so beyond my skill level. But I'm really good at Play-Doh.
Doesn't seem like
But
it, though.
look at that. Look at your stuff all lined up. It's awesome.
Lined
I gotta
up.
say, they're a little long. But no, it looks awesome. Awesome,
Looking good.
awesome. They're gonna taste good.
Great
they look
job.
great. Good job. We have a survivor. Woohoo!
All right, I'm going back to our camera, guys.
See that organization? That's beautiful.
I know, right?
Beautiful. My kitchen doesn't look that nice at home.
I once had a guy stage in our kitchen, and he cleaned a whole case of strawberries, and he lined them all up, facing in the same direction on a tray. I hired him on the spot.
Yep.
That's the mark right there.
It's not ever what you think it is. So there's a kind of a little look of our, if you want to zoom in for anybody to see our little pillows. I haven't counted, but we had like, you rolled 3 coils, I made 3 coils, and about 10. I'm sure we're about 60-ish, 50, 60, easy. I could stop and count. But notice that I lightly floured the tray, and I took my card and went on the back of the card and put them on the tray. It's really important to be on something, somehow, somewhere, because you have to transfer them to the pot. Now, for those of you, we're going to talk about the blanch now. What I like to do is cook them all right away. If I was only cooking for myself or for me and another person, and I thought whatever quantity I wanted to eat, I would still cook them all. I would come out of the water and I would have an ice bath. Everyone understands what an ice bath is? That's ice cubes in water to make the water cold. It's not so many ice cubes that you can't get to the water. It's just to make that water cold. I would blanch these into my boiling water, pull them up when they're floating, and I think they're done, and go into my ice bath instead of into my brown butter. So is everyone with me so far?
Yes.
So brown butter to eat right away, ice water bath to hold. So then I would go there momentarily till I knew they were chilled, and I would drain them out of that, and I put them into a bowl, and I'd lightly olive oil them, not canola, not anything else. I would olive oil them, okay? I toss them around, not swimming, just enough to lubricate so they don't stick to each other. And then I would come back onto a plate or a cookie sheet or whatever, and I would prefer saran wrap because it's malleable. And I'd put my saran wrap down and dump out my gnocchi and let them chill in the refrigerator. If you go a step further and you freeze them, it's called IQF, individually quick frozen. You'd have to put a tray into your freezer and let them get individually, not touching, hard before you package. Then you'd be able to go off into a Tupperware or off into a Ziploc or some other way. But I prefer to hold them out flat if I could. Have we ever cooked them from a frozen state?
Yeah, if you really wanted to, you could freeze them like this, shaped, and then boil them.
Yeah, you can. I think that you just have to be mindful. I don't like to hold them beyond 30 days if you're going to do that. That would be just in case you're waiting for the weekend or you're waiting for company to come or something. But or gosh, we have Easter on Sunday. How convenient is that? Whoa! Wow. You can make these ahead of time. Whoa! And dazzle all your friends. Although you are 6 feet apart, I understand. But you can still show them on the internet that you did it. Okay, what are we going to do now?
We're going to go back to the brown butter because I think we forgot one ingredient to our brown butter, and that is sage. So before we boil the gnocchi and add them to our butter, we've got to add sage to the butter.
This beautiful sage happens to be from my garden that I picked today. So we have to do a little show and tell. Anyone know what that is? Exhibit A. Maybe not good. Exhibit A. And Exhibit B. A. B. Go ahead, someone respond.
What is it, everybody?
What is it? Is it a succulent?
What
is
is
it Batman? What is it?
That's a bird. It's a plane.
Exactly. You know what? Starts with the letter V. Oh, we were really working that name. Starts with the letter V.
Someone says borage.
Nope.
Nope.
Although borage is delicious, what would be the problem? Borage has a thistled leaf and it's very large. In Italy, we fry them called boragine. We use the beautiful blue flowers, but we fry the leaves. And once you cook them a lot like a nettle, the stinging part, the little spines go away. So it's not, that's not, no other guess? Letter V, I gave you a clue, letter V. What is it?
Someone said verbena.
No. I'm sorry, that's a very good answer. Very good,
It's
very
a little
good
bit of a
response.
trick
though.
question, though, right?
It is a trick question. I'm sorry, but you know, champagne sometimes does that. Sorry.
Now we have variegated sage.
Oh, ding,
man.
ding, ding, ding. Winner, chicken dinner.
Who was that?
Boom. There we go. Who was it?
That was Andy H.
Andy H. You are a rock star. Variegated
Andy
sage,
H,
and you're
get it.
probably a gardener.
Good
Woohoo!
job, Andy H.
Good job. Okay, so moving along, I could not wait to find another way to showcase another one of Jason's products, and that's this yummy truffle salt. I had many a truffle salt in my days and years and haven't really liked a whole bunch of them, but I like this one. We actually use it in one of our dishes. I can't even remember who we're,
We do, yeah.
can't put them on the spot. Sorry, we do use it because I know I sign the invoices. I know who they are. So I know we're using it. And the truffle honey, which I'm hoping if I do well enough today, I might be invited back for a cheese segment with truffle honey. Go ahead, keep those cards and letters coming. In the meantime, this is delicious. So we're going to actually show you two ways today to, when you come up in the brown butter, to sprinkle a little bit of truffle salt on top instead of regular salt. But if you have regular salt, that's totally fine. I like especially fleur-de-sel because it's a larger flake. If you have Malden salt or something fancy, great. If you don't, no worries. Kosher salt's good. Just it's the meltability that I like. And then you can shave your fancy truffle. So are we ready to drop some?
Yeah, I just want to
gnocchi?
bring back the camera here to the brown butter and the sage. Everyone sees what happened here. I've taken it off the heat because I didn't want to take it too far. But the sage, it's infused the flavor of the herb inside of the butter, which is great and delicious and aromatic. The sage is a little bit crispy. So we kind of cook the water out of the leaf, and it's a little fried. And that's where we are.
Nice. It smells great on this side.
All right, so let's get our water up to a boil.
I'm just wondering if there's any other questions out there at all from folks out there in our viewer land.
What do you got, Sarah?
Can we just do a from start to finish little recap on the brown butter? What did you have?
Cold pan, crucial.
Cold pan.
Cold pan, butter in.
Butter in.
Heat on. Okay, something that's got a little shallower profile versus a pot.
What heat are we looking for? Medium heat?
You can start medium, but you have to be able to stand and look at what your butter's doing. You have to be able to read the butter a little bit. So even though my telling you his size isn't as imperative because he did it in a larger pan than what he really should have for the quantity of butter that we gave, but it's still fine because he knows what he's looking for. You're looking for the colorization and the caramelization to begin. Once that happens, you pretty much want to get off the heat source so you can hold it because you've got carryover heat in your pan. Perfectly. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. And
You're
at what
welcome.
point should they add the sage?
I would say right at that point, if the
When you
gnocchi
take it off the heat?
Once your butter is melted and you start to hear that crackle and pop, that's the water evaporating out, that's a good time to add your sage. You don't want it to be in too early, it's going to be saturated in grease, but it needs enough time on the heat. It's also going to bring the temperature of the butter down when you add the sage in. But you want to give it 30 seconds to a minute before the butter starts to brown. It's going to kind of happen all at once. So you want to, if you're worried about it, turn your heat down a little bit and take it nice and slow and keep the pan moving because it'll go quickly.
Thank you.
And also the gnocchi should be finished before you start really to make your sauce, or at least have them close enough or have your sauce done and completely cold and off to the side. You don't want to have that rolling while you're trying to finish this. Danger, danger.
All right. So I've got my water boiling here. We've got our sauce ready and our gnocchi ready.
We do.
How's everybody at home feeling?
Thumbs up.
Are we feeling good?
People are excited.
People are feeling good.
Still feeling good, not because of the alcohol, I hope, but preferably because they're excited about being successful.
In conjunction with the alcohol?
Yes, at least the gnocchi are looking good.
It's a combo.
And then when are we going to add that truffle salt you mentioned?
At the very end, it's not going to go in the oil. I personally don't like to do that because I feel because we made a brown butter that the liquids are pretty much gone. So there's nothing to dissolve the salt. So I like it to be a finish, like it's almost a crunch and a flavor. So I think it's really good that when the gnocchi goes in, it rolls around with the sage and brown butter comes out, and then it's the truffle salt. Because you've already seasoned your gnocchi, remember, so this is just a finishing salt.
Also, if you look at your truffle salt, it's a pretty big flake of salt. This Balinese truffle salt that they make. So that's not going to dissolve easily. So this is sort of a finishing salt. All right. Chef, ready to drop some gnocchi?
Ready. Drop them like they're hot.
Okay, everyone's testers are coming out good. How long is the tester? Should it be in the water?
1 minute. It should come up within the 1 minute. They should end. We didn't do that step. That's our bad. We should have ended in a little pan of soft melted butter. They can roll around and taste it. Don't add anything at that point. Taste it because you want to taste internally if the gnocchi has enough salt, pepper, cheese, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's why you don't want to season it there. You just want to taste it. That's your tester. If you feel good, you move on. I would venture to say if you've rolled all these already, you're going to feel good. You're not going to go back and mix them up again. We should have done it sooner. We didn't do it.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. So while he's going in the water, I want to show you my handy dandy skimmers. They could be any type of skimmer. This is a 1942 skimmer from my mom. It's one of my prized possessions, welded a long time ago. But this is also a 1950s skimmer held by someone else in the family. And this is your modern day Cuisine Pro type. Not that they're a sponsor, but they should be. And so you notice the holes that let the water come and go. That's crucial that you're not using a spoon that is solid and has no way to let the water out. Because where's the water going? In your sauce. You don't want that. we would like the gnocchi to be independent. Now there's a really cool skimmer. If you hold that one up over there, Seth, that is the master. Would you say it's not a spider web, but there's another name for this type of mesh. A spider web, and a culinary term, has got a wire that goes around like a spider web, literally. But this works really well because the open space allows the water to quickly exit, the gnocchi to quickly leave and go into the brown butter.
Here's one quick note. Depending on the size of the pot of water that you have boiling, I don't want to add all of the gnocchi at once because it's important that you keep the water rolling, simmering, boiling. You don't want to, if you add too much volume to the pot,
it drops the temperature.
Drop the temperature.
And it crowds everything.
Right. So I've only added, this pot fills about a gallon of water, and I've only added half of my gnocchi to that. So you can see they're starting to come up to the top here, and pretty soon they're all going to be floating.
And should we have something prepared for them to go on as a landing zone?
We're going to go into the brown butter.
Wonderful.
Look at those gnocchi. Everyone's asking, do you want to salt this water?
Did you salt your water?
I didn't because I felt that our gnocchi was seasoned enough, but that's up to you. If you like to season the water, certainly not bad to have seasoning coming from the inside and the outside. But if you feel you've made your gnocchi a little under seasoned, I would definitely recommend salting the water. But since we seasoned the batch of gnocchi itself, should be okay. All right.
So now you guys are getting the plates out.
We got a little shot on these gnocchi here, Jason. They're all floating.
Right.
Skim them out.
Is dried sage all right to add into the butter?
No, and I'm so glad you
No?
asked. No. If you have anything fresh, and if you don't, you'll have to do this. But if you have anything fresh, basil, rosemary, thyme, parsley, all of those things are so enhanced by the brown butter. The dry sage does not have enough way to, what's the word when you add water to something? To rehydrate. It cannot rehydrate. And so what's going to happen is if the brown butter is cool enough, it will be okay, but it will not give you flavor. It won't have enough time. If you use dry sage and you're in a sauce or ragu, a stock, a soup, it has a chance to plump, rehydrate, and give you flavor. But when you go into a dry application like this butter is almost always 100% fat now, there's no water left to hydrate the sage. So you can do it, but I'd rather go naked than to have dry sage. Sorry, just saying.
All right.
Chef Rache, what's your opinion on that?
I would have to agree with you. Chef.
Okay.
Fresh herbs are always the best.
Fresh herbs are always the best.
Fresh is best.
So I've got my gnocchi in the butter here. I'm only working with one stovetop here, so I'm going to bring this back up and warm it a little bit. And as you can see, what's happening is the solids of the brown butter are starting to coat the outside of the gnocchi.
And you want that. That's a good thing. All those little specks of brown goodness.
So good.
If you want, you can fry these a little bit. You can toast them a little bit. If you want to get them even a little crispy on the outside, you're welcome to do
that's
that.
our favorite. We like that at my house, crispy.
See all those delicious, nutty brown butter solids are just coating the outside of the gnocchi here.
How long will we leave them in the butter?
You're only leaving them in the butter until you feel they're seasoned the way you like them. You notice Seth is tossing them and moving them around, trying to get every bite with a little bit of the brown butter. Look at, he can actually pick them up and handle them. They're not going to mush. So don't be afraid to season them and move them around.
And again, if you want them to be a little crispy on the outside, don't be afraid to just let this go for a little bit.
The key here is motion, though. I have to say, Seth, you are keeping them in motion. And for a lot of people, they may not understand what causes food to stick in general. So you have to remember there was fat in the pan. The gnocchis had their seal of flour. And when he hit it, it wasn't necessarily cold either. He brought it up to a higher temperature and then turned it back down. There's a chance for it to form a barrier, if you will, in the butter, but between the metal and the gnocchi.
All right, so I'm happy with this. This is where I want it to be.
Me too.
Take this off the heat. And we're pretty much ready to plate this. What do you
Let's
say?
do it. I'd say do it.
All right.
Go for it. I gotta say, that smells so good. I'm sorry you folks cannot smell that, but I'm sure you have that same thing going on at your house. Do you have enough for 2 plates there, Seth?
I think so.
Okay. When you get that one, I'm gonna switch over for you. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, call me a tweezer, chef. I don't really care. It's okay. I hate that term. Gonna grab a little of my truffle salt. Ever so slightly over the top. Oh my God, it smells so good. I have to wipe this because, you know, I plate for a living, sorry. And I think we're gonna go to this corner over here. Got a little texture going on. And then we can't forget the truffle shaver and the truffles. You understand that you change the aperture on your truffle slicer. You want to start from sub-zero, which is level, and then go up the least amount until you catch the truffle. So there's 0, okay? And then don't try that against your finger because it's sharp. Pick the flattest side of your truffle and go. OMG. We'll let that set down there for a second. I'm gonna do some fanciful rearranging only because I think that would be cool. I don't want to see my sage because, you know. Back in the center of the dish. Say that's pretty yummy looking. Seth, what do you think? You want to try that too? You want some truffle salt on there?
Yeah, please.
Okay, there you go. And if you wanted grated cheese or shaved cheese, you certainly could. We didn't feel it was necessary, so we didn't. But if you didn't have truffles and you're making this recipe again, you could also call Jason to get more truffles, but he did say it's the last of the season, so I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But shaved cheese would be delicious on here as well, in case you don't have truffles. It's looking pretty luxurious, I gotta say.
I'm a little heavy-handed, I think.
Yeah, but that's okay.
With truffles, it's always good, chef.
You know, isolation, everything considered, I think that we are all entitled to a moment of joy.
We're living all right, guys, right?
Yeah. I hope that everyone's really enjoyed the class. I still encourage you to call us with questions if you have some. I really encourage you to eat this while it's hot. And I really should mention the wine. So while you're getting your fork and you're shaving your truffles and actually get to try some of the fruits of your labor, our wine director, Gianpaolo, put together a pinato. I say with an N, pigato. My apologies, pigato. I just want to tell you what he had to say about the wine because I think it's an interesting combination. Punta Crena is the winery. They come from Western Liguria. The grape is very similar to a Vermentino, which you might be more familiar with, a white wine grape. They often will say that it's the same wine grape, but it's not. This one is a little bit richer in texture. It's been totally vinified in stainless steel, so it saw no oak at all. The wine is crisp and fresh, but not too sharp. It has just enough roundness to stand up to the gnocchi, which remember, that's a dairy product. The wine is not fruity, always said that. It's got complements with the nutty flavor of the brown butter and the earthy flavor or the umami of the truffle. The brightness of the wine will really pop once you hit the lemon as well. So that's pretty much a bon appetito from me. I think we went a little bit over our time limit, but I hope you found it rewarding, interesting, fun, educational, that you'll come see us, and we certainly will look forward to seeing you. I'm wondering there, Jason, in your closing remarks, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity to cook. I've been housebound with everybody else. It's so good to be cooking, I can't tell you. And Seth, I don't know if you have anything to add here at the end.
Oh, just thank you guys all so much for joining us. I hope this has been valuable and everybody's going to enjoy their dinner. And I don't want to dwell on the circumstances of the situation, but we'll get through it. And I'm glad that everyone has a chance to enjoy a lovely meal at home tonight.
Buon appetito, everybody.
Ciao.
Grazie.
Should we have Chef did
Closing it up?
signature taste tester?
Oh,
Do the honors, please, Dave.
Do we have forks?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. The smell is, I'm losing my control here. There we go.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Put your wine glass over here.
I'm going to have a bite.
I'm out of bite.
Oh, do it. While it's hot.
Make you guys all suffer over there.
All right, guys. Who wants to show their dish?
Yeah, let's see it.
Woo! Oh, delicious.
Chef.
Honestly, I would say if I didn't like something,
There's the real deal, guys.
the only thing that, you know, we added a little more flour than we thought we were going to. We realized there was ounces in the cup. And it worked. Tasty.
All right, guys. We're going to taste a little bit of this.
Wait, you need some of this right here.
Yeah, that is excellent. Pepper salt. Everyone got a little in their kit.
Chef Suzette, would
Casey,
you
wanna
say
see
that
it?
truffle
Here.
salt is a very important part of this recipe?
We're a little, little shy on truffles.
Oh.
Here, I think.
Yeah, I know him.
First.
Before everyone hops off, I want to make sure we. She has not seen the camera, so she doesn't see everyone's beautiful faces making these dishes. But before you leave, there's a couple things I want to mention. One of which is we're going to throw it up on the screen. Acquerello is doing a GoFundMe right now. Chef Suzette is making sure that all of her employees maintain health insurance during this time period, and she's paying for that. So anything that you guys can do to help support that would be incredible. Another thing that I want to tell you guys is very exciting. Very secret intel, right? Next week on Easter, we'll be doing a caviar Benedict class. So 10:30 a.m., you'll get a kit. We're going to make eggs Benedict. We're going to put a touch of caviar on that. We're partnering with the Caviar Co. That's going to be a lot of fun. You can use a discount code caviar10. We just put the new details up on the website, so check that out now. We've been selling out of these things, and we're going to keep doing them. We're going to continue the quarantine cuisine. Even after, I love doing this so much. After we're not quarantined, I'm going to keep quarantining myself just to make quarantine cuisine with you guys.
I have a present for you guys. No, I just forgot about it.
Ooh. All right.
I'm going to need you to step back in here. You're kind of a spicy guy, so I brought you my frilly red mustard from my garden today. So you can decide how to cook it or eat it as a salad.
Thank you, Chef.
But for
Love
you,
salad.
my friend, Chef Vorace, you need to see this.
Wow. Amazing.
You don't even know what it is yet.
The bag is amazing. That's incredible.
Such fresh bites. You know what it is?
Oh my gosh.
It's a risotto bag. But do you know what it says in Italian up there?
Here.
Read up there.
Says made in carcere.
Which means in prison. So if they find you beating those rice kernels one more time, va via.
Va via la carcere. Never again, chef. No more beating of the risotto.
Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right, thank
so much
you.
fun. Ciao.
Ciao.
All right. Who wants to show their dish? I want to see a plated dish.
There you go.
Show. I'm still working, but.
Okay, Tanya. All right, Tanya, what is up? Okay, let's see that dish.
Guys, no, this was so awesome. Thank you. This is like get out of our heads for whatever, an hour or two, and this is super fun. So
That's the goal.
there you go. So thank you very much.
All right, so put the camera on the dish. We got to see that. Let's get our eyes on that.
Thank you guys. It was amazing. Oh, that looks phenomenal.
Look at that. Yeah.
Did you taste them yet?
Oh my God, they're amazing.
Okay, good.
I have to say, I'm amazing.
Thank you, Chef Tanya.
Grazie. Wow.
All right, but sorry. Let's see that dish.
Hey!
Hey, here we go. Here we go.
Hey, how about this one?
Did you put garlic and parsley in there?
Oh, put some parsley. We will. Yes.
How about this one?
Okay, who just called out?
Oh, it's Mark.
Yo, what up, Mark?
All right, we're looking for you, Mark.
I'm coming over there.
Okay.
Waving to you with the blue gloves.
Oh, we see him.
Very nice clothes, Mark.
Okay, so let's taste one.
Oh, my
Oh,
Wow.
Very nice. Look at that, man.
check this out. We gotta do our here.
And Suzette, my nephew used to work for you for many years there.
He's still alive?
Yeah, he's in Australia, Andrew Wolpa.
Oh my God, I love Andrew. How
Yeah,
is
he's my nephew. He's a chef at Mian Pastry in Australia.
Send him a big kiss and a hug from me, please.
I will.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you so much for doing this, and good luck to all your people.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We appreciate it.
Get in on Emmeline.
Everyone's coming together.
Emmeline.
Chef Emmeline.
Come on, Rick. Let's say thank you.
It's still cooking. Give us one more minute.
Okay,
Okay,
Emmeline,
no problem.
how was that wine?
The wine is great. Grant's watching the Gnocchi right now.
Okay. All right, who else we got here?
What?
All right, Blake, we're coming back.
I can show you guys. Oh, there we go.
Blake, how did it come out?
Why don't you come and say that? You want to pop your head in and say, this looks amazing?
All right, look at that, Blake.
You gotta confirm from your iWatch now. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Riddling off like, well, where are the truffles?
I don't know.
Confirm from your iWatch.
How do I? Okay, hold on.
You guys are amazing.
Totally. What good students they are.
Anning, are you trying to show?
Yeah, this is Sean Olson. I think Chef Suzette knows Sean.
Yeah, Sean, hi.
Oh yeah, click
How
on that
are
one.
you?
You did okay. Coming in.
You're
Whoa.
spotlighting.
You don't have sage? Where's your sage?
It's buried. It's buried.
Somewhere in there.
Well, work on your plating, sir.
Thank you.
I think it looks great.
Thanks.
Bon appetito.
Thank you. Thank you, Chef.
All right, I'm coming in.
Next week.
There was a lot of truffles.
Hi.
We hope you're safe and healthy on your quarantine. We all miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful.
Flip it.
Thanks for watching.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, we got one right there. They're trying to
Concerns?
show.
All right, our Hernandez are coming in.
Hey.
Hey. Looks great.
Looks great.
Very
And
nice.
Joe and Romana here. Thanks, bud.
Good
Hey
job.
guys.
Good job.
All right, Rhonda.
No, just take what you want.
Rhonda, let's see this.
Grazie mille, chef. Buon appetito.
Oh, Emma's watching, so maybe show him.
We can call her. So you're so shy. Even if you shut the app, you just can't
Oh,
see it.
right. A little.
Okay, Rhonda, you want to show us your screen?
We're still showing.
What was it?
All right. Oh, Jerome, coming in there. We're zooming in.
There they are.
Wow.
They made so many. It looks
job.
great.
Nice job, Jerome.
Seems like it came out exactly like it's supposed to, honestly.
Yeah, no, I did.
Like the text
Yeah, eat those, you guys.
Need Zoom lessons, babe.
or whatever of the
All right. You guys are amazing. I am adjourning this meeting.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys. Back on.
Thank you.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, let me go back to our camera.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm unmuting everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, well done. Bravo. Buon appetito. Arrivederci. Buonanotte.
Bye.
Keep me.